Hi, I'm Shane with BJ Yoga, and we're here today to walk you through some hip opening exercises. It's very important to keep the hips limber because when the hips get tight, they take the back with it. So let's go ahead and start in what's called a cobbler position. So we want to have the soles of the feet joined. And to get started, we'll take a very healthy distance between the heels and the pubic bone. Not so far apart that you don't feel anything on the inner thighs, but not so close that you feel like your knees are floating up. So we want to be able to maintain that tall seat in this position, not collapsed back into the pelvis. So if the belly button is pulling in towards the spine, it means that your feet are too close. You need to sit them back out a little bit. So we want to come up nice and tall. Hanging onto the ankles, we're just going to take a few deep breaths and start to bounce those knees up and down. So long, slow inhales and exhales as the knees flutter like butterfly wings. Just one more breath. Bringing the knees into stillness. Let's slide those heels in just a little bit more. Again, not so close that we drop back into the lower spine. You need to be able to stay upright. And then we take the hands around the tops of the toes. Lift the chest up and tip the pelvis forward. So it's really about bringing the pelvis forward towards the heels as opposed to bringing the chest or the head down towards the toes. So we're leaning forward, leaning the pelvis into the stretch, keeping the neck in neutral spine. So we don't want to have the chin dropped, nor do we want to have it looking forward. So a nice neutral spine. Let's practice our deep breaths here. And if you like, as your hips loosen up, you can take your elbows around the front of your shins and drop down a little bit more. Again, try and keep that flat back. As you inhale here, we'll curl the pelvis, tuck the chin, and roll all the way up to seated straight and tall. Take your right hand and bring it onto your right leg. You don't want to bring it onto the right knee, you want to bring it onto the right leg. Joining the seam of the calf and the thigh there, just laying your palm over the top of it. You're going to push down into that leg as you twist the right shoulder to your left. Then the left hand goes out to the left. So it's a little push to push your body open, to push your hip open, to lengthen the back, and you're even getting a little stretch in the shoulder right here. So exercise your breathing. Let's come up to reverse. So we'll bring the left hand to the seam of the calf and the thigh, not the knee. Push the left shoulder over towards your right. Take your right hand to the floor, over to the right, and lean down a little bit. Deep, slow breaths. Just breathing your way through it. Let's inhale, bring ourselves up. All right, we'll stretch those legs out. Take it easy on your knees. Coming into a straddle. Let's make this straddle about 3/4 of the way as wide as it could be. So you don't want to be completely stretched out, nor do you want to be hanging out doing nothing. About 3/4 of max stretch. And you just kind of wiggle the flesh of the buttock off to the side a little bit so you can feel the 2 points of the sits bone really rooting down. The hamstrings are on the floor, but the quadriceps are not tight. The feet are flexed and the heels are pushing lightly away from the hips as the toes look straight up towards the sky. We'll take the hands behind us just so that we can really get that tip of the pelvis. Because to come down into a straddle fold like this, all curled over, isn't really going to do anything but stretch the middle of your back and your shoulders. Whereas if we're up and open and we push the pelvis forward, now we're starting to talk about the groin muscle and the hamstrings. So we want to be leaning forward. Make sure the kneecaps are nice and loose. And if at some point you feel like we can come a little further down, then we bring the hands out in the front and start to drop the body down. Notice I'm coming down with a flat back. My belly button is wide open. It's not compressed by the upper or lower abdomen at all, and the neck is in neutral spine. The toes are still flexed. And this is a good resting point on the elbows here. If you want to come all the way down, then go right ahead. But you need to make sure that when you increase your stretch, that you're not stretching with your forehead or your chin. And let's keep breathing, nice and slow, always breathing. And collapse the pelvis back, curl the spine, and inhale, roll all the way up. Good. We're going to come over to the right leg, so frame the right leg with the hands. Keep that left sits bone down in the floor, so we don't want to pull that left hip up. It needs to stay down. And we're going to twist the belly button over towards the inner thigh. Then we can come down, always making certain that the left side stays down. Only once we've reached our maximum fold can we bring the hands forward. Neck in neutral spine, back is kind of flat, the left side of the chest is rolling over towards the inner thigh without collapsing or crunching up your shoulder. Deep breaths. And inhaling, pulling the body up. Framing the left leg, so one hand on either side, right side of the buttock, right sits bone is down, twisting so the belly button is looking over the thigh and folding. Coming down with flat back. Once we've reached maximum fold, then we can take the arms out a little bit. Make sure that those opposite toes don't roll in. All toes looking to the sky. Right side of the chest looking a little bit towards the inner thigh without collapsing the shoulder or the chest. Deep breaths. And here we go, rolling up on the inhale. Grab underneath the knees, pull the legs together. And let's just bring ourselves onto hands and knees. So we start in a hands and knees position, and then we're going to take this right foot and bring it forward. So you want to bring the foot down to the floor. You'll notice my knee is in a shallow bend. When I bend, I do not want this right knee to come any further than my right ankle. So I'll take the knee over the ankle and then slide that left leg back a little bit. So the left knee is down on the floor, the left toes are pointing straight back behind me. And you'll notice the hips are sinking down. We want to make sure that this knee stays not only on top of the ankle in terms of traveling over the foot, but we don't want it to roll out to the side. That taxes a different muscle group. We're not ready to go there. So we just want to kind of corral the right knee with the right arm. Look forward or look up. Fill it up with your breath. Let's go ahead and shift the hips back, get that right foot out of there, and then we can reverse to the left. So we'll bring the left foot up. Again, noticing how I'm starting in that shallow bend. And then I bring the knee on top of the ankle, stretch that right leg as far back as it will go, and drop the hips. Lift the chest, either look forward or look up. Deep breaths. Keep that left knee corralled with the left arm. And let's go ahead and push the hips back, get that left knee out of there. Okay. Coming into a frog-like position, so everybody can kind of just squat down on your heels, noticing how your knees naturally travel out to the sides. So what we want to do here is get the hands in a position that supports the body as we step the feet out a little bit and then drop the heels down. So you want to make sure that your heels are on a level plane. You don't have one foot in front of the other foot. The toes are rotated slightly out, and the knees are actually tracking right on top of the toes. They shouldn't be going past your toes. We bring the elbows to the inside of the knees. Bring the palms together. And here I like to lower the heels of my hands until the forearms are forming a bit of a straight line. This lets you push the knees and the hips open as you drop the butt all the way down and lift the chest up. Not only does this open up the hips, but it really releases the lower back, and it also tones your ankles. So let's keep a straight chest and breathe slowly. Not very pretty to get out of this pose, but we just release the elbows and drop the hips down. And then we return to a starting position, which was that easy seat. So we have one heel in and the other heel in the front, hands to the knees, and we're just going to soothe out the hips by creating some big circles with the upper body around the lower body. So the spine flexes a little bit here, going back as we go back, reaching forward as we go forward. So we don't want to go around with a straight spine like we're stirring a pot. No, we're flexing and contracting. Check in with your breath. Should still be nice and slow. And let's reverse. Rolling slowly up into center. Let's sit up straight and tall. Good. Take a big breath in, big breath out. And just bringing the hands together in front of the heart. And thank you for joining me today. I hope you found that helpful. Sat Nam and Namaste.